everybody, it's Chef Antoniuk here from Jazzwire. Welcome to Guided Listening. So we're going to listen to super standard old tune, Have You Met Miss Jones? I think it's a Rodgers and Hart tune. Interesting band. It's from a George Garzone album called Twos and Fours. And the album is he and his old friend, Joe Lovano. So Joe Lovano on tenor saxophone, George Garzone, tenor saxophone. That's a lot of tenor saxophone. And the band is John Lockwood on bass, one of Garzone's musical comrades for decades and decades. The great Bill Stewart on drums and Joey Calderazzo on piano. Joey played for years and years with some of the greatest tenor players of the last couple generations, including Michael Brecker and Branford Marsalis and many more. So it's a great band, trio and two saxophones. So I've been thinking about this album recently. So this goes back to the mid-90s, early mid-90s. And I was studying with a great trumpet player named Tim Higgins. Tim is around. I saw on Facebook or something that he's doing the jam session at Dizzy's this weekend, I think, something like that. Tim Higgins, one of the absolute great improvisers and one of my favorite trumpet players. I was studying with him. And one of the assignments was, we were talking a lot about momentum and having energy and sort of, well, momentum, that idea of a ship with momentum. That ship doesn't have to be going fast, but it has this inexorable forward, this pressure, this forward motion. Anything that gets in the way is going down. This ship may be going at 2 knots. It's not going fast, but man, it has a lot of momentum. How we get that feel into our playing. So we were talking about eighth notes, and he said, "Okay, come back to the next lesson and find, who do you think has the greatest eighth notes?" And so I had some immediate ideas. I love Joe Henderson and I love Coltrane. I'm thinking about all these people I've been digging. And then so I go back and I'm listening. It's like, well, I love Joe Henderson, but it's like, yeah, maybe not, maybe I wouldn't pick his eighth notes specifically. So I started, and so it was kind of interesting. And then, I started cycling through a lot of different people and I landed on George Garzone. And as having like really compelling eighth notes. I went through Sonny Stitt and so many others. And I went back to the next lesson and Hagen's like great, Garzone, wonderful, play with him all the time. Which album? And I was like, well, I don't know which album. I mean, I like George Garzone. He's like, no, which album? He sounds different on different albums. It's like, okay. So I go back, check out, and I kind of zeroed in on the album and bring it back. And he's like, which tune? I'm like, what? It's like, which song? His eighth notes are different. Think about Sonny Rollins. 4 measures from now, Sonny Rollins is playing a different style of eighth notes. Sonny especially, right? He was someone who really changes up his feel some. So I was like, wow, okay. So then I picked this track, Have You Met Miss Jones? And he's like, okay, which measure? I was like, what? And he's like, yes, you need to listen to this. It's, so I picked the measure. And turns out it's the first measure of the second chorus of Garzone's solo, which to me are the greatest 9 eighth notes ever played in human history. So I've taught this idea to many, many students since the mid-90s, this idea of thinking about momentum, not what we're playing, but how we're playing. And this idea of momentum, and what is that? How do we develop it? Higgins and I developed it for years. I'm so thankful for that time with him. And so I've taught that approach. That's something we do in Jazzwire. When you come in to Jazzwire and you send in 2 recordings, that's how we work together, by the way, inside Jazzwire. It's not just some faceless, nameless thing where I tell you some cool licks and you go off. That's not teaching. I have to know you're playing. If I don't know you're playing, how can I know what you need to do next? So other teachers, other sites that sort of do it that way, like it's cool, like, here's a fire hose of information, here's all the PDFs you want, but I don't really look at that as actual teaching or actual education, not so much. So when I hear somebody play, that's how we personalize things. All right, so I'm giving you an idea of what we're gonna hear here. So we'll listen to the melody, and maybe I'll stop after the melody, because if you haven't heard this recording before, it's slightly shocking. So let's jump in and listen. We'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll jump back into the recording. Wow, that's a lot. The first time I heard that, it was like, oh my God, this is the coolest, like train wreck, amazing thing I've ever heard. So we heard Joe Lovano playing the melody, and he was, embellishing it a bit, but he was playing the melody. We heard Joey Colorazzo and Garzone playing this crazy etude. Atonal is a word that comes to mind, but that's not really what's happening, I don't think. I'm not expert, in Garzone's language, but crazy, wacky, going on in the background. And then John Lockwood and Bill Stewart just swinging, just their heads are down, and talk about momentum, like they are swinging. There's not a lot of space for anything other than do your job, right? Bass and drums. So that kind of bent up language. Now, Joe, or rather Garzone, has taught at, I don't even know, I know Berkeley and New England and probably some other places. So many people from my generation and before and after me studied, at these great institutions with Garzone. And so they know so much about his approach and his language. I've read some books, I've done some master classes with him. I'm, again, not expert in how Garzone thinks. Studied with Tim Higgins, who played with Garzone a lot, so we would talk about Garzone some. Anyway, long story short, he's just got a really distinct language as he improvises. When I look at it, it's amazing, and I have a hard time talking about a lot of it. And I know, it's, he's able to kind of, think there's approaches there for sure. And again, I'm not expert at talking about it because I didn't study it, but I love it. I love it. Fantastic sound, both he and Lovano. So let's start again. We can listen to this whole thing again, and it'll be cool to listen to the two voices and sounds of these two guys, their approaches, and listen in to the bass and the drums, and just how they have one job, which is just like move down the field, and some like really fantastic creative bass line stuff going on. So it's not like they're playing in a simple dumbed down kind of way, but the energy. They understand that this track is about one thing, momentum. Here we go. It's kind of cool, right? That line in the background with the piano on top. It's cool to have the piano there. And George Garzone solos first. Garzone. That is tipping. Good Lord, tipping. Woo! So listen to the comping, how sparse it is, right? It's a lot of space. And that's what you do when Garzone's playing all this. Here come the eighth notes. Here come the eighth notes. That's it. That. Those cool moments where Garzone leaves that really intricate language and just plays something beautiful and sing-songy. Fantastic. Woo! Pedaling on the bass there. Woo. Beautiful melodic moment there. Woo. Goodness. Joey Calderazzo. And it's cool to listen to Bill Stewart of how he embellishes the ride pattern, how he's creating his own melody with the ride pattern, how the snare drum is talking to it. Again, sparse, because there's so much going on with Joe. That top of the chorus, how Bill hit that, crash cymbal. I really like the mix. We can really hear John Lockwood's bass. The ride cymbal's very crisp and clear. Yeah, it's cool. When we switch into the next solo, listen to the cymbal. Bill changes cymbals. Here's Joe Lovano. Listen to the cymbal. Different cymbal sound. And Lovano, it's like some crazy bird just flew into the room. His sound and his rhythmic approach has this cool kind of wobble to it. Great. It's cool with Joe Lovano. Like Sonny Rollins in the sense that how he changes things up inside his line. It's not just one approach. And when Lovano goes up high, he does that growl sound, which I love so much. If I copy him, I do that. Great flurries. That technique, jeez, playing these killer lines, so clear, so swinging. Damn. Like all the articulation, the shape in the line. Okay, don't know if you loved that or hated it, but whoa, I mean, respect, got to give it up. I have a Kandinsky hanging right there. I think it's a real Kandinsky. I haven't had it appraised, but I'm just operating under the assumption it's a real Kandinsky. And I don't know what the hell is going on in that painting, but I feel like I see a wagon and some wheels. I feel like I see a house or a building or a farm or something. So it's abstract, right? If we look at Picasso Cubism and we can kind of tell that's a woman and we guess that's one of her three eyes or whatever, right? But like we can tell some of the things, what's going on, but then there's a lot of mysteries. You can look at that painting 50 times before you see there's a dog in the corner. Oh my God, it's kind of fascinating when we look at or we read an E.E. Cummings poem as, my example with poetry, or Michael Ondaatje is another poet I like. See, I'm just naming names of fancy people so that you guys like me more. With that kind of art, literature, filmmaking, whatever it is, it's like we can tell what's going on, but it's mysterious, but it's wrong. But like, why does it work? If it works, but it does work. So when I'm listening to Garzone, he's making the changes. He's not just playing random stuff over these chord changes. He's absolutely getting to the bridge and making that second key area in the bridge. He's totally doing that. But when I look at a transcription of what he's playing all sorts of major thirds on minor chords. He's playing fourth scale degrees, but not third scale degrees on the dominant chords. Like every rule you can imagine breaking is being broken, yet he's making the changes. But everything I know about making the changes, he's not doing. Often, lots of the time, right? So he's invented this other way to do it, the way cubism, let's call it, or surrealism. This new approach was invented to let us know that person isn't actually crazy. Maybe they are crazy, but they still make some kind of good art, right? Yeah, it's amazing stuff. And so when I listen to Garzone, it's fascinating. Sometimes it's a lot of work and it's sure a lot of intensity because, geez, does he play with intensity. But listen to Garzone play a ballad too. It's beautiful. And Joe Lovano, two of my absolute favorites, if we want to call them modern players, but two of my favorite players and improvisers of all times. Really different voices to me, yet both modern, yet both so attuned, so in love with the history of jazz and the saxophone. I know both of those guys could talk to you for 10 hours straight about Ben Webster. Yet, how they move things forward. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you, and especially that idea of momentum, drive, whatever we want to call it, and share with you, to me, the 9 or 10 eighth notes, greatest eighth notes in the world. Interesting stuff. So these are the kind of conversations and lessons and assignments and individual work we do inside Jazzwire. So check out the free trial. I was going to say that, right? Check out the free trial. If you haven't yet, what the heck? It'll take you 13 seconds to sign up. Come check out what's going on. We're doing our third lesson on infantize, Wayne Shorter infantize, and we're talking about how to play over those really tricky, atypical chord changes. So if that's something that you've been wondering about, how do I deal with Wayne Shorter chord changes, or that song in particular, we're working on it. Come check it out. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Have a great week. I'll see you here next Friday. Bye.